Gadsden.
Hello and welcome to Life Esteem again. We're so glad to always have you as a viewer. And today we have a very special show. We're going to talk to a wonderful ministry here in the Harrisburg area that has lived for a long time, making tremendous impact. We have Bishop A.E. Sullivan, who's the president of the IMC, the Interdenominational Ministers Conference. But also we have his mother, and she is Pastor Carolyne Sullivan, and we're just glad to have you both here. And what a unique team we have today.
We're honored to be here.
Isn't that something? And Pastor Sullivan, the name of your church is?
Hope of Glory Deliverance Ministries.
Okay, and you're located at?
15th and Market Street in Harrisburg.
All right, so glad to have you here. And you raised this guy over here who's now the president of the IMC, Bishop Dr.AE Sullivan. Tell us about him growing up. No, that's just joking. But this is great. But you both are working in the IMC and have been very integral parts of that. Let's talk about that for just a minute, Brother Sullivan.
Okay. Well, I just want to mention I'm the senior pastor of the Victory Outreach Christian Church, and we're at 2401 North 4th Street in Uptown Harrisburg, which is on the corner of 4th and Seneca. Okay. And we've been privileged to serve as president of the IMC. I'm in my second term now, and the IMC is involved in so many different initiatives in our community to help, people in the community, to push forth things that improve the quality of life and to gear people towards the worship of God and sustaining of families and rearing of children, etc.
And you have a very important event coming up, the IMC does. Tell us about that.
We have the 25th annual Greater Harrisburg Interdenominational Citywide Revival. This is our 25th year, and so it is special. I remember I was at the very first one. Never thought I'd ever be the president one day. But the 25th, when the first one happened, it was a month after I had gotten married. And here now we're in our 25th year. We have Bishop Kelvin Ramsey, who's coming back from Tupelo, Mississippi. He is a singer, a preacher, a songwriter, a musician, an author, and he played in the NBA.
Yes, he did.
So everyone out there, you could come out and hear a former NBA player who once had sneakers with his name on them, and he preaches now. And he's a dynamic preacher. Those dates are July 13th to the 19th of this year.
Okay, and where would it be held again?
It would be held at the St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church, 1201 North 17th Street, here in the capital city.
Fantastic. And Pastor Sullivan, you've worked with the IMC for years now, and tell us the kind of things you've done with the IMC.
Well, I've served 2 terms as the secretary. This term I'm serving as assistant secretary. My ministry got a little busy, so we decided to step back some. But we're just more than grateful to be in the position we are. And as I said yesterday, serving under my son. It's not the first time because he was my pastor. I was his assistant pastor back in 99 to 2001. And now my daughter is my assistant pastor. So I'm just grateful to be living to see these things. Every parent doesn't get that opportunity to exchange with their children the way that I have, and so I consider myself blessed.
Amen.
Well, one of the things you also mentioned about the graduation of your grandson from Oral Roberts.
Yes.
And so that's another achievement. I'm sure you're very proud. Okay,
Yes.
to have
Yeah,
that
but
occur as
My
well.
daughter is now working on her doctorate. She's been an educator for years, and she got her master's in principles papers several years ago from Penn State, and now she's going through Phoenix for her doctorate.
Oh, beautiful.
That is
Yes.
great.
I've mentioned daughter many times, of course, in the school setting, in fact.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, you also have a granddaughter, I believe, at Messiah College, or 2. Is that right? Or 1 or 2?
The one graduated
One
from Messiah College
graduated.
last
Okay.
year, and the other one transferred.
Okay, all right. Where's she
Yes.
transferred to?
She's going to Harrisburg Area Community College.
Okay, wonderful. All right.
And they both studied the same major that I did, my undergraduate degree in business administration.
Fantastic. That's
Yes.
great. And the one that graduated from Messiah, is that April? Was that?
Yes.
Yes, April.
Yes.
Okay. I remember.
And they're looking to start a business where they're in the process of starting a business to honor my late wife, their late mother. business she had in her heart to do, and that's what they're looking to do, called the King's Daughters.
King's Daughters, that's fantastic.
And my grandson that graduated from Oral Roberts, he's a twin. And his older twin went to IUP. And they're my musicians.
Okay.
And they have a sister, Faith, that's known as Miss Bass. She plays drums, bass, and keys. Very talented. Their father is a musician.
Wonderful, wonderful. So when people talk about there's no Cosbys and there's no families, like they've missed something here, right? This family's out here doing well and doing a good thing. That's good. God
By
bless
the
you.
grace of God.
By the grace of God.
Grace of
Amen
God.
to that.
I
Yeah.
take no credit. All the glory belongs to Him.
That's right, that's right. And Pastor Sullivan, I know you've seen a lot in terms of ministry and things that have happened. You know, a lot of stuff is going on in the city right now, but it's indicative of what's going on in a lot of cities. In fact, let me hold up this poster here real quick so people can kind of see that. Yeah, I think they can. And I'm going to ask Bishop if you'll talk about the poster first, and I'll get back to Pastor Sullivan.
Okay.
Okay.
Love and Protect Our Children is a national tour being sponsored by 1911 United. And 1911 United, it's a super PAC composed of Kappa Alpha Psi and Omega Psi Phi. The Kappas and Qs came together to help promote a social agenda to help our communities. And this year the focus is on the youth gun violence. And they were on their way to Chicago, where there's been over 500 deaths due to gun violence.
Right.
And we were able to talk to them and convince them to come to Harrisburg. They were more than willing to come. They came on yesterday. The sad thing was we had a shooting in the city, a murder, the night before they even came. But they came. We had a press conference at the City Government Center. And then we went to certain parts of the city where people were murdered and talked to people. And the bus went around the city. They shared with us. And so this is an agenda. They're going to Chicago, to Mississippi, all around the nation to talk to young people, to get them to understand the importance of ceasing from violence and buying illegal guns and being involved in all these things that cause so much destruction to our families and communities.
Yeah, yeah. And that's so very important. And Pastor Sullivan, I know that you were part of that as well. When you see what's going on in the cities and the streets and everything, you know, and as pastors, what do we do?
I know it's something to really think about, because when I heard about the murder the night before, I just prayed and went to bed. It was almost like I was ready to cover up my head, because you do all you know to do, and it still seems like it continues on, which lets us know that our work is not done.
Amen.
We have a lot of praying to do. And in my knowledge of the Word, Jesus prayed more than he did anything else. And so that tells us we have a lot of praying to do, because the answers are not necessarily going to come from within us. They're going to come from him, and we have to look to him, the author and finisher of our faith. But as growing up in this area, born and reared in Stilton, connected to Harrisburg all my life, I've traveled around many places and in other nations, but this has been my home base. And to see Harrisburg change like this, it's a life-changing thing to see the communities going down. And I've worked at, when in the early 70s, at Jackson Lick Apartments as the manager.
Okay.
I attended the University of Pennsylvania to study housing for the elderly. And I was the one that moved the children out of the high-rise apartments into the garden-type apartments. I also, after that position, worked in the schools for a project called Project SKIP. That was the acronym, but it stood for School Community Communications Project. And our director used to tell the school district, you're going to need these programs 10, 15, 20 years down the road more than you need them now. But the government stopped funding it. And we were liaisons between the school board, the parents, the teachers, the principals, the children. We went to court with children, and I would go up in the William Penn area and run the kids out from in front of the store and get them into school. And things of that nature. And there has been a lack in that area ever since the program. We were in the meeting that planned for the middle school, and our director told them that that middle school was not going to work. But, and people don't listen sometimes, but it's just kind of disappointing to see our young people not value life. And I really do believe that we're in a situation now where the blood is crying out from the ground.
Wow.
We don't have enough men as it is. We've lost a lot of men in war and, you know, the different things, but now just killing one another. And I'm just praying every day that it turns around and turns around quickly for all our sakes, so other mothers can sit beside their sons and do what we're doing together.
Amen.
But I would advise, if I had anything else to say today, for the mothers to get their children in the church.
Yes.
You know, it's not all the church's responsibility, not all the school or the neighborhood, even though we say it takes a village. My children used to say it only took Carolyne Sullivan to say, you're going to school today, or whatever. But I know we're in a different time, and it does take a village. But meanwhile, you have to bring them into the village.
That's right. That's right.
And you sometimes need to put aside what you want to do. Value your children and implant visions that they have something to work towards and accomplish and look to. From the time he was like 5 years old, he was in the preschool, the pilot course. It was on Dairy Street at a Methodist church. Because my daughter was going to she was going to K-5. And I was like, what am I going to do with him? Because I didn't really have the money to send him to private school. Somebody knocked on the door, said, don't you have a child 4? We need to use him for this pilot course. I was so happy. He was so happy to be going to school. He ended up with one of his grandmother's colleagues, a person that she went to college with was his teacher. And he was in that pilot group. And I started talking to him about college then. I didn't wait till they were 12 or 13. I said, when you finish high school, you're not done. You must go to college. You must go to college before you get married. Don't even think on these things until you finish your education. So I began to plant those things. And these are the things as parents that we have to do and value what they have to bring to the table. I've learned much through my own children. I said they got their education and they came back home. They were able to help me in the church, help me with many things, and pray for me. And they prayed for me even when they were young. And it brought me up out of a horrible pit.
All right, fantastic.
You know, I really appreciate that in regard to painting that brilliant story and how critically important that the family is in regard to allowing our children to be nurtured and be able to develop and to grow. And I think what we have in front of us today is we need to have not just Pastor Carolyne Sullivan and the AE Bishop, Dr. AE Bishop, is we got to have this whole community is getting behind these young people. What do you feel?
Well, you hit the nail on the head, because this is what I said yesterday at the press conference. People always say when there's bad crime, the mayor should do this, city council should do this, the police should do this.
Right.
But I was quoted as saying, what are you doing? It takes everyone. Somebody steals your gun, report it. If you see suspicious activity outside your home, report it. If you know someone's doing something, there's things that we can do. It takes all of us together, because the police cannot be everywhere. It's not enough of them to cover every single home in the city. So there's a role that we all play, and not just with crime, even education.
That's right.
You can get the best superintendent, you can get the best principals, you can get the best teachers, but parents have to be on board.
That's
right.
Students have to be on board. And there's so many of these things intertwine, because even this Love and Protect Our Children tour, when we talk about gun violence, it's symptomatic of a lot of other things that are wrong in our community. Poverty, which a lot of people are not really serious, are not serious-minded enough to really deal with the poverty epidemic in our nation.
Yes.
I've traveled the world. I've been on almost every continent. I've seen poverty, but I'm seeing it here and how it's affecting here. And because government plays games with the poor, and Dr. King said that way back in the 60s, and it's still true. Until we tackle poverty and a lack of education, crime will continue to rise and go through the roof.
Amen.
And it's affecting not just urban areas, but suburban areas and rural areas.
That's right.
And people are not serious about it. Look at where the school shootings took place.
Yeah.
They were not in urban areas. Look with some of the other shootings, they were in rural areas. And so some of the things that people trying to run away and get away from, it's everywhere.
That's right.
Because these are issues of the heart.
Amen.
And this is the importance of the church, the faith community, and people coming back to God. I mentioned God yesterday in the City Government Center. People almost cringe, but U.S. Congress opens up with prayer before they have session.
Right.
The president, every time he gives a speech, says, God bless America. So there is a God, and people are afraid to speak of him, but we need him now more than we've ever needed him before. In our families, in our communities, in our neighborhoods, government needs him. All these PhDs and doctors that can't figure out solutions to common sense problems shows that we need intervention, we need help, we need guidance from on high. And this problem is a major problem because we're destroying our present and our future with these young people killing each other. Now tie that into the poverty, tied into education, and remember this, they're now building prisons based off of third grade test scores. And we call this a civilization, but think about this for a moment. We're building prisons and we're closing schools.
Vast state of affairs.
Big time. Yeah.
That's a major thing. And so the IMC is committed to, we've been involved with the superintendent of Harrisburg City School District. We've been involved with the schools. We're involved in youth programs. We're collaborating with other groups. Certain initiatives we've been collaborated and have partnered with the Greater Harrisburg NAACP. Especially with voter ID on last year, that whole debacle, and the Lord blessed us and gave us favor in that. We're partnering with other groups and other initiatives, the Martin Luther King Leadership Development Institute, which is an intellectual brain trust of the IMC. And more of these community organizations come together, the more we can get done. It's not me in my corner and what I can do, and everybody's trying to save the city from their corner, but together, collectively, we can get much more done. Because yes, it takes a village to raise a child. I always say it takes a church to raise a village.
I like that.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to use that on Sunday, by the way. But anyhow, wonderful. And that's a perfect segue to this little announcement that on June the 15th, Saturday, June the 15th, we will be holding our third annual Fatherhood and Family Celebration. This year's theme is Employment Now. Family Job Fair. So we're hoping to have employers there, all kinds of vendors, all kinds of entertainment, activities for children, fantastic speakers. And so we hope that you will come out. This is all free. It's at the State Museum from 10 to 5. And the State Museum is located at 300 North Street in Harrisburg. Now we want you to come out, bring your family out, because exactly what Pastor and Bishop are saying is so true. And you're part of that equation, is that right? Everybody
definitely.
in our hearing, in our viewing, is a part of that equation.
Yes.
So you can't sit back on the sidelines and say it's someone
Absolutely.
else's job. So I hope that you'll come out. And we have a wonderful speaker coming from New York City, Tanya Grady. She's both a film producer as well as an author. And we have all kinds of local people participating, doing just wonderful things, and they're bringing their talent to you, for you to have a wonderful family time and to begin to consider how we can make a more powerful community. So please come out. Saturday, June the 15th from 10 to 5 at the State Museum of Pennsylvania, 300 North Street. For more information, give me a call at 732-0700. That's 732-0700. That's United Way of the Capital Region. And just ask for Nate Gadsden. I'll be happy to talk to you about it. So back to the IMC and this wonderful,
And can I just
please.
applaud you and your wife for the great work you've done over these many years, the Writer's Workshop, with the Fatherhood Initiative and everything. I applaud you. I tip my hat to you.
Thanks so much.
Because what you've done is so needed in our community. Because this is what I found out. And my parents, their marriage was not able to make it. They didn't make it in the marriage, but God blessed that me and my sister came into the world. And they got divorced when we were young. And my mother did an outstanding job to raise us.
She did.
And a lot of times, people, and we had the help of grandparents and uncles and aunts, but she did a stellar job. And so often people already say, you've been dad and mom. But I correct people and I tell them a woman can't be a dad.
That's right.
She could be super mom, but she can't be a dad.
That's right.
Thank God I had a grandfather and I had uncles that gave me an image of what a man is. Because we live in a day of role reversal and identity crisis, and people don't know because they have no one to model or shadow.
Right.
And so she was super mom, but there always needs to be a dad.
Yes.
And that's what's important about this fatherhood initiative, this celebration, because there's one on June the 8th at Hall Manor.
there is.
That's right.
And I'm involved in that, and I'm also involved in your event on the 15th.
Absolutely.
We need all these events. Father's Day is the next day after your event. I did an article for the Patriot News when I was a guest columnist last year, and it was on the importance of fathers. And I made the statement that Father's Day may be the most important holiday we have. Now, I made that statement, and that statement, to be understood in context, has nothing to do with mothers haven't done a great job, because many times they've been overworked and underpaid.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be the first to admit that. But the reason I said that about fathers is because all the statistics that point to every social ill in our community goes to the absence or lack of fathers in the lives of children.
That's
From
absolutely
prisons to high school dropouts to drugs to all kind of sexual abuse
Pregnancy.
and other things,
Yeah.
teen pregnancy and everything. It goes to the absence of fathers in the home.
That's right.
So if people just look at me and say, well, you made it, I made it by the grace of God. I made it because I had a super mom and I had a grandfather and I had uncles and I had other people.
That's right.
And that helped me. But we need fathers involved. And even if they're not in the home with the child, they got to be involved in the life of the child. And mothers can't stand in the way of the fathers trying to have
That's
a relationship.
right.
And they can't say, well, you don't have a relationship with me, you can't have it with the child. The child needs a father.
Think of the
God
child.
designed it so that children would have two parents. I always say, so that between the both of us, you get one good parent.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, get a balance.
And think about this. In that article, when I wrote it, and I got a lot of commendations from people about that article, the one thing I wrote was, people always talk about God being a creator or a judge and all like that. I said, before he was a creator, before he was a judge, he was a father.
All right.
And people forget that aspect. God was a father, and Jesus always spoke of his father and gave him identity, and he was well adjusted and knew what his purpose was and fulfilled it. He knew who his father was. And so fathers are very, very important. And I want everyone to know I say that it was my ancestor that came up with the Mother's Day holiday.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and you can go on the website and see it, or you can go on online and see it. But fathers are very important. And until we bring Father's Day up to the level like Mother's Day,
Yeah.
you have ticker tape parades and balloons and
Yeah.
flowers. Father's Day is kind of just a another day, get a tie or whatever. But fathers, until we build them up, how are they going
right.
to come up from where they are?
That's right.
Until they know they're important and somebody celebrates them and affirms them that they're important.
And I would just like to throw an aspect in there that fathers who do make mistakes, who do have to serve time in prison, when they come back, they need to take the time to sit down and talk to their sons.
That's right.
Yes.
And say, this is not a good idea.
Yeah,
This is not the way to go. Matter of fact, they don't have to wait till they come back. They can write them a letter.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And they can write continuously to
Amen.
urge their sons.
Amen.
It's not cool.
It's not cool. Don't believe the hype.
Yeah.
Don't believe the hype. It's not all that it's cracked up to be.
That's right.
And we do, as he said, we do need fathers and father figures
No
in our
question.
children's
Yeah.
lives.
And we need the IMC Citywide Revival as well, by the way.
Yes.
Yes.
Tell them a
Yes.
little bit more about that, because I've just been blown away with the last few years in particular, but all of them been great.
Yes.
But it's been fantastic. And we're in store for what this coming July?
Okay, on Saturday, July the 13th, around 4 o'clock, that's going to be the pre-revival concert, and being featured is the Citywide Revival Mass Choir, singers and musicians from churches all throughout the greater Harrisburg area, so that's Harrisburg, Stilton, Harrisburg, Middletown, and other places. Then on that Sunday, July the 14th, will be a communion and consecration service, and we have a guest speaker coming from North Carolina, gentlemen that we're looking forward to hearing. And then that Monday through Friday would be Bishop Kelvin Ramsey. Many great things going to be happening. It's our 25th year. We want everyone to come. Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Native American, and whoever else. We want you to come. Rich, poor, up and out, in and out, down and out. Come to the citywide revival.
When do you preach? You got to come here. You preach.
The speaker for that Sunday, he is Caucasian, and I've heard him before.
Yes.
And he's a great messenger, so
wonderful.
I'm looking forward to
Can
it.
I just give information so that some people can know in reaching the IMC? If you want to send donation or contribution to help us in what we're doing, that's IMC of Greater Harrisburg, P.O. Box 5692, Harrisburg, PA 17110. And you could reach me at 717-233-6970. We also have a website, IMC of Greater Harrisburg, Harrisburg spelled out, .org. And so just want you to know we have many great things that are coming up that we're involved in. We have a historic Black church project and many other things. Call us, email us. All the pastors out there, you're welcome to come and join in. We can be greater with you and we can get more done with you. Inclusion is expansion. We want you to come.
The IMC is about how old? How long has it been around? Since,
About 50 some years.
Okay.
Yes, yes. And so we're just grateful. Former President Bishop David Scrivens is a mentor of mine, and we appreciate that he's yet in the land of the living and doing great things for the Lord. Also, wanted to let everyone out there, all the people in the faith community know to keep me in their prayers. I'll be doing some international crusades this summer. I was headed to Cameroon in June, but that's being shifted. It looks like I'm headed to the Philippines now. And in July, after the citywide revival, I'll be going to Liberia, doing a crusade there where they have it set up for me to meet the president there in Liberia. And so keep me in your prayers, and you can see me on my website, apostlesullivan.com, or you can email me at apostlesullivan@yahoo.com. And keep me in your prayers, and we're just looking forward to spreading the gospel of Jesus all over the world.
All right. Beautiful. Wonderful.
Not
wonderful.
to change the subject, but I would just like to say in 2006, your fatherhood program that you have at the museum, I attended that. And at the time I had a niece, her parents were deceased, they were pastors, and she was in a nursing home in Frackville. And I met some people at my table from Frackville. They came to sing. The one person I think had won the Idol contest.
Oh, yes.
And I asked them to visit her, and they went by, sang, and prayed for her.
You know, we have run out of time, but I really certainly appreciate, we're going to do this again. But anyhow, thank you so much for being on. Wonderful ministries here in the Harrisburg area, as you can see. I want to thank Pastor Sullivan and Bishop Sullivan for coming on. We have dynamic families. We have evidence of that in the Harrisburg area. I want to thank you so much. Whatever you do, be blessed today, be a blessing to someone else, and get out there and get involved. We need you. See you next time on Life Esteem. Goodbye.